Let's be honest. Most men think they know women. They think they understand what she wants, what she needs, and what makes her tick. But here's the truth nobody told you. What you see on the surface is never the full picture. Women have weaknesses, deep, subtle, sometimes invisible cracks that influence everything they do. And knowing these isn't about manipulation, it's about understanding, about seeing the dynamics that control relationships without wasting your time, your heart, or your energy. The first weakness is her need for emotional validation. Women are wired to feel deeply, and when that feeling isn't acknowledged, it creates tension you can sense, even if you don't see it. She doesn't just want compliments, she craves recognition of her inner world. Miss it, and she quietly distances herself, creating frustration for both of you. Yet this isn't weakness in a negative sense, it's simply human. But here's the twist. Most men try to fix this by talking, by reasoning, or by providing logical solutions. It rarely works. What actually works is attention, genuine, unwavering, undivided attention, the kind that makes her feel safe enough to open up without fear of judgment. Second, women have a vulnerability to inconsistency. Men who think they can play games or disappear for days without consequences are mistaken. Insecurity thrives in unpredictability. When a woman senses instability, it triggers her most primal defenses: doubt, fear, and suspicion. And yes, it can make her chase or withdraw unpredictably. But here's the key insight. Consistency isn't just about showing up, it's about showing up the right way. Reliability communicates strength without arrogance, interest without desperation, and that balance, that's magnetic. Third, pride is a hidden vulnerability. Women often protect their ego fiercely, not because they're selfish, but because the world has conditioned them to. When a woman's pride is challenged, subtly or openly, she can react in ways that confuse men: silence, passive aggression, or even withdrawal. Understanding this isn't about exploiting it. It's about approaching her with respect while still maintaining your own boundaries. The men who master this are rarely the loudest or most aggressive. They're the ones who can navigate her pride without triggering her defenses. Fourth, women crave emotional security more than most men realize. Security isn't money, gifts, or superficial gestures. It's predictability in how you treat her, clarity in your intentions, and honesty that never wavers. A man who can make a woman feel secure in his presence holds power, not through dominance, but through reliability and authenticity. That power isn't about control, it's about influence. And influence, when wielded wisely, creates a bond she can't ignore. Fifth, women are highly sensitive to subtle energy. Tone, body language, micro-expressions, these small signals communicate far more than words ever could. You could say all the right things, but if your energy doesn't match your words, she feels it, and it creates a gap that words alone can't close. The irony? Most men obsess over conversation and strategy, while the real breakthrough is emotional calibration, matching her frequency without losing yours. So let's pause here for a moment. Notice a pattern. These weaknesses aren't flaws. They're windows. Windows that reveal how women think, feel, and respond. The men who see them clearly are not the men who try to manipulate. They are the men who understand, who guide, and who inspire trust effortlessly. Before we move further, think about this. Which of these weaknesses have you seen in your relationships before, but maybe didn't understand at the time? Hold on to that thought. It will make the rest of what I reveal even more powerful. Women are masters of subtle influence, but behind every confident smile, every laugh, every carefully measured reaction, there's a hidden vulnerability most men overlook. And if you don't understand it, you'll keep repeating the same mistakes, wondering why she drifts away or loses interest without explanation. One of the most powerful female weaknesses is her sensitivity to emotional neglect. It's not about grand gestures or expensive gifts. She notices the absence of attention in the quiet moments. A missed text, a distracted glance, a conversation cut short. These are the cracks that grow into emotional distance. And here's what most men miss. It's not just about noticing her, it's about being present in a way that makes her feel seen. The men who master this aren't chasing validation, they are creating a safe emotional environment where she feels heard, understood, and valued. That's a kind of power few men recognize, yet it's the foundation of attraction that lasts. Second, women have a profound need for appreciation. This isn't superficial flattery, it's acknowledgement of her effort, her choices, her intellect, and yes, her beauty. When a woman feels unappreciated, resentment can quietly build, even in relationships that appear strong. Most men try to fix this by giving gifts or compliments without thought, but she can sense insincerity immediately. True appreciation is specific, heartfelt, and timely. It's noticing what she does, how she thinks, and the ways she contributes that go beyond the surface. Master this, and you hold influence that commands respect without forcing it. Third, women are highly attuned to emotional honesty. Lies, big or small, erode trust faster than any argument. Even when she doesn't voice it, she senses deception, hesitation, or inconsistency. And here's the insight most men never realize. It's not about being perfect, it's about being transparent. Women value a man who can admit mistakes, show vulnerability, and communicate clearly. That clarity, paradoxically, creates strength in her eyes because it shows integrity and self-assurance. Fourth, women can be vulnerable to overthinking and projection. Their mind often creates scenarios, fears, or doubts that don't exist in reality, and those imagined outcomes influence how they react. Most men respond defensively or dismissively, fueling the cycle. The man who understands this listens, validates her feelings without surrendering his own frame, and guides the conversation gently toward perspective. That balance transforms tension into connection, uncertainty into trust, and doubt into attraction. Fifth, women crave emotional momentum. It's not about rushing, it's about rhythm, the push and pull of attention, desire, and communication. She reacts to patterns over time, not isolated moments. When the rhythm is off, too distant, too controlling, too predictable, her interest fades. But when you create emotional flow, understanding when to lead, when to hold back, and when to connect, her engagement intensifies naturally. Notice how these vulnerabilities aren't weaknesses in a negative sense. They're triggers, patterns, and needs, and the men who recognize them gain something rare, insight. Insight that allows them to connect deeper, influence subtly, and create attraction that isn't forced but inevitable. Here's a question to consider before we go deeper. How often have you misread her reactions, thinking she was upset with you personally, when really it was a need for attention, clarity, or rhythm you didn't provide? Hold that thought. It's going to change how you approach every interaction moving forward. Many men think attraction is about looks, charm, or bold moves. But the real power lies in understanding the invisible threads that shape a woman's feelings, the hidden weaknesses that guide her decisions, often without her even realizing it. If you overlook these, you'll remain stuck, confused, or frustrated, wondering why she pulls away even when everything seems fine. One of the most overlooked female weaknesses is emotional hypersensitivity to tone and intent. Women don't just hear your words, they feel them. A subtle shift in tone, hesitation in phrasing, or even body language can create doubt, insecurity, or tension instantly. You might think you're being neutral or joking, but she interprets layers of meaning beyond what you intended. The men who master this understand energy before words. They cultivate calm, confident presence that reassures rather than triggers doubt. That presence, quiet yet commanding, is magnetic in ways that flashy gestures could never achieve. Second, women have a vulnerability to feeling undervalued in their ambitions and intelligence. Many men assume flattery and compliments on appearance are enough, but that's only part of the story. Women want acknowledgement for their mind, ideas, creativity, and achievements. Overlook that, and she feels invisible in ways that slowly erode attraction. Recognition of her intellect and contribution is a subtle trigger for loyalty and engagement. It signals respect and understanding, the foundation of deeper emotional connection. Third, insecurity often hides behind confidence. Women who appear self-assured can still carry fears of abandonment, judgment, or inadequacy. These insecurities are not flaws, they are human, but they are patterns that guide her reactions, choices, and emotional availability. The man who understands this navigates without judgment, provides consistent reassurance when needed, and keeps his own boundaries intact. That combination of empathy and strength creates a magnetic pull she cannot resist. Fourth, women respond powerfully to selective attention. She notices where your focus goes, not just in big gestures, but in small moments, listening to her story, remembering a detail, or noticing her mood. Distraction communicates disinterest. Attention communicates presence and priority. This selective focus isn't about controlling her, it's about showing where your energy truly lies. And women sense that energy instinctively, making it one of the most profound leverage points in connection and attraction. Fifth, subtle social comparison affects her choices more than most men realize. Women are influenced not only by what they feel for you, but by how they perceive your value relative to others. This isn't shallow. It's biological, emotional, and deeply ingrained. The man who maintains his standards, demonstrates confidence, and avoids the trap of approval seeking creates an irresistible aura. He becomes a standard, a reference point, without saying a word. All these patterns, tone, recognition, insecurity, attention, social perception, intertwine to form the invisible framework that guides her reactions. The men who see these patterns clearly are not manipulating. They are understanding. They are seeing the truth of female psychology that most men miss entirely. Before we move further, think about this. How often have you misread her mood, assuming it was personal, when in reality it was a ripple of tone, attention, or subtle comparison? This awareness is not just insight, it's power. Women are not predictable, but they are patterned. Behind every smile, every reaction, every choice, there are triggers that guide her heart, often without her conscious awareness. Recognizing these isn't about manipulation, it's about clarity. It's about seeing the hidden rules of attraction that most men stumble through blindly. One of the most crucial weaknesses is her response to emotional contrast. Women are drawn to men who create balance, who can be confident yet vulnerable, strong yet tender. Emotional contrast generates intensity because it mimics the highs and lows of human experience. Men who remain flat, monotonous, or emotionally distant create boredom. Men who understand the rhythm, the push and pull of emotional energy, create desire. This is subtle, almost invisible to the untrained eye, but when applied with authenticity, it shapes attraction in profound ways. Second, women have a sensitivity to a man's internal frame. She doesn't just observe what you say, she senses who you are under pressure. Is your confidence real or is it fragile? Do you react to her mood swings with calm authority or with defensiveness? A man with a solid internal frame exudes stability without arrogance. That strength becomes magnetic because it assures her that no matter what life throws at you, you will remain grounded, steady, and reliable. That's more compelling than charm or charisma alone. It's a quiet power she notices instantly. Third, women respond to recognition of their autonomy. Independence is attractive, but insecurity can make her question her freedom in the relationship. A man who subtly reinforces her autonomy, supporting her decisions, respecting her choices, and showing trust, creates deep emotional resonance. She feels safe, seen, and respected. Paradoxically, by stepping back, you often create the pull that draws her closer. The men who understand this dynamic rarely need to chase. They naturally inspire desire by creating emotional breathing room. Fourth, vulnerability triggers connection. Women are wired to detect authenticity. Surface-level charm fades quickly, but genuine vulnerability, sharing a fear, an honest opinion, or a moment of uncertainty, creates intimacy. Most men fear showing weakness, but strength isn't about hiding it. It's about showing it selectively, in ways that reveal depth without neediness. That vulnerability communicates honesty, reliability, and courage all at once, forming a bridge between attraction and trust. Fifth, women are deeply affected by patterns of attention and absence. Presence communicates value. Absence, if timed strategically, creates intrigue. Too much attention too soon can overwhelm. Too little, and she doubts interest. The key is rhythm, engaging, withdrawing, reconnecting, without playing games. This dynamic taps into her subconscious desires, creating a magnetic tension that keeps her emotionally invested. Finally, subtle emotional leadership shapes her engagement. Women are not looking for control. They are looking for guidance, direction, and emotional clarity from a partner who can navigate life's uncertainties with poise. Men who provide this naturally, without force or domination, hold influence far beyond words or gestures. They lead emotionally, which paradoxically makes her feel empowered, not controlled. Every interaction, every glance, every choice you make sends signals she reads instantly. Understanding these vulnerabilities, emotional contrast, internal frame, autonomy, vulnerability, attention rhythm, and emotional leadership gives you insight few men ever gain. It's not about games or tricks. It's about seeing the invisible mechanics that shape attraction and connection. Think about this. Which of these subtle triggers have you overlooked before, thinking she would just notice or just feel it? Recognizing them changes how you show up entirely. Most men think the game of attraction ends at charm, looks, or confidence. But the truth is far deeper. Women's desires, insecurities, and responses are shaped by hidden patterns that guide their hearts. Understand these, and you don't just attract, you create connection that feels effortless, magnetic, and lasting. One key female weakness is the craving for emotional safety in communication. Women notice how men respond under stress, disagreement, or uncertainty. A calm, steady presence reassures her more than any sweet words ever could. When a man loses his cool, raises his voice, or reacts impulsively, it signals instability. The men who understand this cultivate patience, clarity, and composure. They communicate in ways that make her feel safe without needing to control her emotions. That safety, subtle yet profound, is irresistible. Second, women are influenced by perception of status and competence. Status isn't about wealth or titles, it's about how you carry yourself, handle challenges, and maintain your values. Competence communicates ability, strength, and reliability. When a woman senses competence, it creates admiration and trust. She instinctively feels drawn to a man who can navigate life confidently. This isn't superficial. It taps into deep psychological wiring. And the men who master this don't flaunt it. They demonstrate it naturally through actions, decisions, and self-assured energy. Third, women respond to emotional scarcity, not in a manipulative sense, but in the rhythm of attention and desire. Too much availability dilutes attraction. Too little creates doubt and distance. Emotional scarcity, when balanced with genuine care, creates intrigue. The men who succeed understand timing, presence, and engagement. They create a space where she wants to invest emotionally rather than taking her attention for granted. Fourth, subtle physical and verbal cues influence her perception more than most men realize. Eye contact, tone, posture, micro-expressions, they communicate confidence, interest, and emotional stability faster than words. The men who master these cues don't rely on charm or verbal skills. They let their energy, presence, and subtle communication do the work. Women respond instinctively, often before the conscious mind catches up. Fifth, women are sensitive to emotional consistency. Shifts in mood, attention, or behavior create doubt and tension. The man who remains consistent in energy, communication, and emotional availability builds trust and attraction simultaneously. This consistency signals reliability, strength, and emotional intelligence. Women may not articulate it, but they feel it deeply. It's one of the most underestimated weaknesses and opportunities every man should recognize. Finally, women are profoundly affected by the perception of choice. They value freedom and autonomy, but they are drawn to men who create natural, non-coercive influence. By demonstrating confidence, competence, emotional intelligence, and integrity, a man becomes someone she chooses to follow, admire, and invest in, not because she has to, but because it feels natural. Influence is not about control, it's about creating conditions where her attraction and respect grow organically. Notice the pattern: emotional safety, competence, scarcity, subtle cues, consistency, and perceived choice. They are not flaws. They are the psychological triggers that guide attraction, connection, and emotional investment. The men who see these patterns clearly navigate relationships with power and empathy, influence and respect. They understand female psychology in ways most men never even consider. Think about this. How often have you unintentionally ignored these patterns, wondering why she pulled away, lost interest, or seemed distant? Recognizing them changes everything. Knowing these truths isn't about control, tricks, or games. It's about understanding the unspoken rules that govern attraction, connection, and emotional investment. It's about seeing the hidden weaknesses every woman carries, and using that insight to become the man who stands out, the man who inspires trust, desire, and respect effortlessly. We've already uncovered so much: emotional validation, sensitivity to inconsistency, pride, craving security, attunement to energy, need for appreciation, response to vulnerability, and the rhythm of attention. But there's more. Women are influenced by subtle patterns in behavior that most men completely miss, like how you handle absence, how you navigate conflict, and how you lead emotionally without dominating. These are the final keys to understanding female psychology in its entirety. One critical weakness is her reaction to subtle leadership. Women instinctively respond to men who can take initiative emotionally without arrogance or force. A man who guides conversations, makes decisions, and creates clarity without controlling her creates a sense of security and admiration. This isn't dominance, it's influence, and it's a magnet for deep connection. Most men underestimate this because they confuse leadership with aggression. Another is her need for authenticity in every interaction. Women can detect pretense instantly. Charm, humor, and confidence are valuable, but they crumble under scrutiny if your energy doesn't align with your words. Women are wired to feel authenticity, not hear it. This is why men who master emotional honesty, vulnerability, and integrity create attraction that doesn't fade. The man who embodies these qualities doesn't have to chase. It's as if she chooses him without realizing why. A third subtle weakness is emotional attunement to reciprocity. Women notice patterns in how you invest, emotionally, mentally, and physically. If she feels she's giving more than she receives, tension builds even if she doesn't voice it. Balanced energy, where attention, care, and respect flow both ways, creates loyalty, desire, and connection. Recognizing this dynamic allows a man to guide the relationship naturally, without manipulation, while ensuring her emotional investment grows organically. Fourth, women respond to vision and purpose. A man with direction, ambition, and clarity of values is irresistible. It signals strength, reliability, and self-sufficiency. Women are drawn to men who have a life worth leading and a presence worth following. This weakness, her attraction to purpose, isn't superficial. It's primal, instinctual, and incredibly powerful. Finally, everything ties back to emotional intelligence. Understanding her triggers, patterns, and unspoken needs allows you to navigate relationships with subtle power. Emotional intelligence is the ultimate leverage, more than looks, money, or charisma. It allows you to inspire trust, desire, and loyalty without effort or force. It's what separates men who flounder in relationships from those who create connection that feels effortless and magnetic. So, here's your challenge. Think of the last time you felt her pull away or lose interest. Which of these weaknesses or patterns were you overlooking? Reflect on it, calculate it, and then write your answer in the comments below. If this video opened your eyes, like it, subscribe, and share it with a friend who needs to understand these truths. Your awareness is the first step toward mastery, and mastery begins with seeing what others ignore.